In previous episodes of Market Journal, you've seen interviews from the Nebraska Crop Management Conference held in Kearney earlier this year. At the event, Nebraska Extension agronomist Roger Elmore explained why corn farmers should think about growth and development of plants as two separate terms. He also said it was important producers understand what normal is during the season. We started our conversation by asking what normal means.
Well, normal, first of all, is a setting on a clothes dryer, right? So if you don't know normal, though, in terms of corn, and our whole system on corn development and growth was based on what does a perfect plant look like. And I'm convinced that you need to know that so that when something abnormal shows up, it's glaring, it's right in your face. You know that this is not a normal development or growth.
Is it easy to describe what that normal plant looks like?
Well, yeah, the cover corn pictures, that you see in the magazines. That's the perfect corn. And, no blemishes. It's been photoshopped or whatever. But that's the perfect corn. It's hard to find. But we've got images of that. And it's kind of like knowing the difference between, what's the word for a counterfeit money?
Oh, yes. I don't know the term, Roger. You must know it better than I.
Yeah, I lived in Argentina for a year, and so I know that I saw a guy counting a whole stack of US $100 bills one time, and he was going like this, and in my poor Spanish I said, so are you counting them? And he said, no, I'm feeling them. Feeling them for counterfeits.
Yeah.
So that really drove the concept of that I just presented, that you need to know what the real thing is like, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it acts like, in order to know what the abnormal is.
So how important is it to know how corn normally develops then, the developmental stages of corn?
Well, there's a certain sequence of development. It goes from vegetative to reproductive stages. In terms of growth, it goes from short, embryos to plants in a systematic way. So that's part of the feeling of it, is knowing if something is out of sequence, if it happens too fast. You can have V6 corn that's this tall versus V6 corn that's this tall. So you have to know how to count the leaves and say, well, what happened here? Why is this one so short? What kind of, and that's the difference between growth and development. Development's the leaf number and putting on new leaf numbers in a sequence, and growth is literally an increase in height or dry matter or something. So why is growth so poor in this one field? And so what was the stressors that came in at that moment? Those are the questions you have to ask.
So it's critical to think about growth and development as two totally separate terms.
Yes.
Okay. Well, how do you use this then? How do you use all this information and try to make management decisions?
Well, there are certain things you can correct and certain things you can't. Early season, there are a lot of issues that come up with emergence and very variable emergence and developmental stages in the same row, and there's a critical time there when that needs to be assessed. If you have a lot of variation, you still may have time to replant. So that's the easiest thing to think about there, is that early season hail, frost, there's times to do something else, replant corn or replant another crop. As you get later in the season, obviously if it's a disease situation that comes in or something, you really can't do too much about that. Perhaps fungicides if you're early enough in the season, but basically you're locked into that crop for that year, so what you use with that information pertains to next year more than the current year.